Okay, we are live streaming and I got 20 people waiting. Let's see. I need Danette Threlkeld. And Rebecca. And Callie Fire. There she is. Okay, Shannon, put us on the record.
All right.
This is the matter of Jaden Coffey. Who's LGAL on this one?
Ivan.
And I've got Callie Fire present. I don't see the other worker's name in the waiting room. Ms. Fire, do you know if Danette is participating today?
She was supposed to be.
All right, I see it now. I was looking for something a little different. Okay, and now Ms. Threlkeld Cohn is present.
Yes, I am.
And Mr. Brown, how's Jaden doing?
Phenomenal. Considering the parental home that he came from, he's making significant strides in his placement. He's involved in activities. The family just loves having him there. He's still involved with his former stepmother. They've coordinated that well. I'm very pleased with this placement. The only thing that I'm questioning is I talked with placement, and the report indicates an anticipated adoption date of 8/21/20. I don't think that's realistic. The placement indicated they just had their physicals done, so I'm assuming consent has not even been received. So if you could give me a more accurate adoption anticipated date, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
So can either of you workers answer Mr. Brown's inquiry?
I can. I am the adoption worker for Jaden, so I have not yet received physical. So yeah, I haven't even submitted for consent. I do have a new date of October 2020. I think that is feasible. I believe they did their physicals. They just need to turn it in. And then I have like 2 more documents, and then I can approve the family assessment. And then go ahead and submit for consent.
They indicated that they are done and they were going to get with you. I think I spoke yesterday with them. They were going to get with you this week to give them to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Cohn, Ms. Fire, either of you have anything else to add?
No, I feel that Jaden is doing exceptionally well in the home that he's placed in right now. They take really good care of him. He feels a part of their family, and as well as the other foster child that's in the home.
Thank you. I will schedule our next review hearing November 10th at 9:45. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a post term for Matthew Doro. Who's Matthew's LGAL?
Ken Hotchkiss, Your Honor.
And we have Jackie Johnson, and I don't know if we've got an adoption worker. Jessica Urch. Let me see if she's out there. Yep, there she is. Okay, Mr. Hotchkiss, how's Matthew doing?
Your Honor, I had an opportunity to speak with the placement and proposed adoptive couple, the paternal uncle and aunt. He's doing very well in their care. They have no complaints. He's progressing nicely. They report him to be very comfortable and happy and stabilized, and are looking forward to completing the adoption. I have reviewed the permanent court ward report, and I believe progress is being made, and I'm in support of the continued goal of adoption. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson or Ms. Urch, do either of you have anything to add to your reports?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you have anything to add to your report?
No, according to his worker Joy Jennings, it's going very well.
And Ms. Urch, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. As an update to my report, the family was able to complete their fingerprints last week, and those have been submitted for processing.
So everything appears to be on track?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. I'll set our next post-term hearing for November 10th at 9:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is a post-term review hearing for Anthony Schultz. Who's our LGAL?
Ken Hotchkiss, Your Honor.
And Ms. Johnson, you're also on this file.
Yes.
Excuse me. And looks like Leanna Scott is our adoption worker. Let me see if she's waiting. Yes, she is.
Sharmika March also is the supervisor, and she texted me and said that she just logged in.
Okay, let me find. She's not showing up. Yeah, she's not in the waiting room.
Okay, I just texted her back and let her know that she's not showing up.
All right, well, I'll keep my eye in the waiting room and see if she does. In the meantime, and I forgot, who's LGL on this one?
Your Honor, Ken Hotchkiss.
Mr. Hotchkiss, how's Anthony doing?
Your Honor, Anthony's doing extremely well. I did speak with his therapist. He indicates that Anthony's very engaged, has complied with all the services and requests, and really is no longer in need of any residential treatment. The one setback that the court probably recognized from the report is that the former proposed adoptive couple are getting at least separating and maybe getting a divorced, and that's unfortunate. But as I understand it, an aunt and uncle have been identified as a replacement, if you will. The therapist sat down with Anthony, discussed this with him, and Anthony seems to be okay with that, and actually excited to move forward with this new aunt and uncle, and they live here in Jackson County, Clark Lake, which would keep him close to the area. So I think overall, under the circumstances, he's doing extremely well. Thank you.
Weren't current placement relative placement as well?
They were.
Okay, I thought I remembered that. Ms. Johnson or Ms. Scott, do either of you have anything to add?
No, Anthony was placed the very first time that he was removed. Around age 5, he was placed with this aunt and uncle. They had since adopted several children. So when we removed the whole group, we didn't consider placement there at that time. However, they're very stable and doing very well. And actually, they had reached out to us about 2 months ago, and had at that point decided to remain supportive of him because it was moving so well with this other couple. So as soon as that one fell through, we contacted them, and they're very excited as well.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. We hate to see a change in placement at this stage, but not much we can do when a couple separates. So I'm glad there was a good option available for Anthony. I will set our next review hearing for November 10th at 9:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Kylie Denman. Who's our LGAL?
Ivan Brown, Your Honor.
And Ms. Henry. Let me find her. There she is. And let me see if we've got an adoption worker listed. Amanda Getting, I think I saw her. Let me get her in. Yes. Okay, looks like we have everyone in. Mr. Brown, how is Kylie doing?
I spoke with placement. This is a wonderful home. Kylie's is very fortunate to be in this home. I have absolutely no concerns whatsoever. I'm hoping that we can finalize this adoption by the anticipated date, and the placement would like to do whatever form adoption to get this done quickly, whether it be Zoom, paperwork, or whatever it shall be. Thank you.
Yeah, they just need to let Terrell Lynn know how they'd like to proceed. I will accommodate whatever their wishes are. Ms. Henry or Ms. Getting, do either of you have anything to add to your reports?
I do not, Your Honor.
I would just like to, this is Amanda, I would just like to add that the adopted family submitted all of their necessary paperwork to me this past Thursday. So I'm hopeful that while I noted November as the hearing date or projected date for adoption, I anticipate it will probably be more end of September, October that we'll have an adoption for the family.
Wonderful.
Good. That is good news. I will set a review hearing for November 3rd, but if we can get adoption completed before then, obviously there's no need to appear. Thank you.
What time, Judge?
I'm sorry, November 3rd at 9:45.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, next up, Prater and Hickman minors. Who's our LGAL?
That is me, Rebecca McCluskey, Your Honor.
And let Ms. Ernst. Sharon Ernst, and let's see, Pamela Freeberg in. Okay, looks like they're both connected. Rebecca, how are all these children doing?
I'm sorry.
Well, Your Honor, I believe we're on the docket for an early review. I think this was only adjourned a couple of weeks because of the issues with Trenton and his placement. So I did give an update on all the kids last time, but so as far as Trenton goes, I did have a lengthy conversation with his prospective adoptive parent, who's his paternal uncle. If the court remembers, we have some issues. When the termination happened, Trenton went very much sideways, and he's really had no behaviors or very few behaviors this entire case. And then his uncle became resistant to taking him until Trenton wanted to go with him. Trenton wants to be adopted by his current placement. So we're having a lot of issues just making this move happen. We all did do an FTM, a Zoom FTM. The uncle chose not to participate in that. So we had a pretty lengthy Zoom FTM about this case as well. And I think the agency, Trenton's counselor, and I, really everyone on board in this case, agrees that this move just has to happen, and we would have to put safeguards in place if Trenton were to run away. So after our last court hearing, I did speak with his paternal uncle again, and he's still kind of digging in about not wanting to take Trenton until Trenton willingly comes to his house, and that's just not going to happen. So we're a little bit at an impasse. As for my input, I'm now very concerned that this uncle is even going to be able to handle Trenton. The conversation, I think he will be good for Trenton, but the paternal uncle has no children of his own, and I'm not sure how equipped he is to deal with a child with the amount of trauma that Trenton has. Especially the paternal uncle's position seems to be very putative in nature. At this point, he thinks Trenton should have to spend a weekend in a residential facility to basically show him what life is going to be like if he doesn't cooperate. Now, I will say that I do believe some of Trenton's behaviors are manipulative at this point. And so maybe some of that, I guess I'll use tough love, for lack of a better term, might not be horrible for Trenton. I'm kind of at a loss. Our only other option is to find another adoptive home, which obviously is going to delay permanency for Trenton. And this case has gone on way too long to begin with. I still think he will be ultimately in good hands with his uncle. It may just come down to current placement is going to have to give a hard deadline on when Trenton has to be moved. I know their position is that they're afraid to do that, and then the paternal uncle will ultimately say he's not going to take Trenton. But at this point, I think that's all that can happen. Current placement has to give Trenton a deadline, has to say you are going. The paternal uncle has to say, I am taking you, regardless of whether you want to come right now, and the move has to happen. There's no ideal solution in this situation. I would want to make sure that the agency is giving support to the uncle.
Rebecca, let me stop you for a minute. Shannon's trying to get my attention.
I think
I'm sorry.
uncle wants to.
Mr. Prater is present in the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I didn't
good.
hear you say that.
I didn't. I let him in later. Rebecca was talking while I did it.
I apologize. And actually, I believe when I spoke to him, he may want to address the court.
All right, but before I do that, is there anyone else that you were expecting for the hearing? Any of you?
Not myself, Your Honor.
Okay, I just don't want to leave any out. Mr. Prater's name showed up in the window that I have here, so as soon as I saw that, I let him in. Mr. Prater, would you like to address the court?
Yes, I would, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I think Mrs. McCluskey is a little bit misunderstood in her understanding of the situation. I emailed her back in November requesting assistance because of Trent's behavior was deteriorating rapidly. I also emailed Robert Gordon, the director of DHS, and he forwarded me to Julian Chang, the Children's Services Administrator. At that time, back in November, Rebecca had responded that she would call me. However, she never did. I never heard from her. I haven't heard from her until a few days ago. I'm not at all resistant to taking Trenton. We've always been open and to taking Trenton at any time he's ready to come over. We've essentially bent over backwards to try to accommodate him and try to get him to come around. If the court recalls, I fostered Trenton after his initial removal from his birth parents' home. At that time, Trenton was fine at my house, had no issues. He was open to staying with me, and he continued to be open to staying with me, and even open to adoption once his parental rights were terminated. So there was a point in time where he was on board with moving in with me. However, his behavior did start to deteriorate rapidly. But there was little involvement from the GAL or from DHS to help stem that behavior. So that's why I reached out to the state director. We had multiple meetings with the state director. This was after Rebecca was on the emails and had not responded to me or followed up on her email to call me back. In those emails with Julian Chang, the Children's Services Administrator, there was an action item set, and one of those action items was to get Trenton a trauma assessment. And that was scheduled, I believe, sometime in early January. However, he refused to go to that trauma assessment. And then there was no follow-up from anybody to after that. There's no follow-up to actually complete the trauma assessment. So we're still waiting for that. So what I had communicated to Rebecca was we were very open to and welcome to taking Trenton. And I feel I'm as suited as anybody to help him move forward and get beyond this. However, I think that trauma assessment needs to be completed. And I also think there needs to be more work done with Trenton to get him back around to being willing to move here and for me to adopt him. The consensus in the family team meetings was for me to force Trenton in the car, force him to my house, which I didn't agree with. That was a conflict of interest. He wanted to stay at his foster home because he's been comfortable there. They have other kids. In the environment is a little bit different, where he would have more rules and be expected to participate a little bit more here around the household. But he was open to come into my house and for me in adopting him, and he came away from that. I think with some time and some work, he'd be brought back around to willingly come to my house without me having to force him here. I think it would be detrimental for me to force him in the car, force him to move to my house, and take him from the place that he wants to stay right now. I think we can get him back to willingly coming to my house, but there's gonna need to be accountability and action taken by people outside myself and the Colligans. There has to be involvement from the GAL. There has to be involvement from DHS. It can't be visiting Trenton for 5, 10, 15 minutes before a court hearing just to get an update so they can tell the court what the court wants to hear. I suspect there's a lot that's not been said, including some issues related to Trenton's sisters. My sister and I had both written letters to yourself back in February of 2019. I suspect you didn't receive those letters because the GAL received them. And I don't think she forwarded the information in those letters to you either. So I think this whole thing's kind of been, the aim is to force us along here at the end after minimal involvement by the people that should be most accountable for Trenton and his needs.
So, Mr. Prater, what you're telling me is what I've been hearing for the last few hearings, which is he doesn't want to go back to your home and you don't want him there until he wants to go.
We want him here, but it's not in my best interest to force him here against his will. So my question has always been back to Pam, Rebecca, DHS. What are you going to do if he does not want to get in the car? And there's been no answer. The only answer was for myself or Kimberly to force him over here. And I don't think that's.
If I could
Just a
right,
second.
if I could respond.
Just a second. So, Mr. Prater, I'll say again what I said. You've made it clear that you don't want him there until he wants to come on his own. Is that not correct?
We want him here. I think it's detrimental to force him here at this time after he was previously wanting to come here. It's going to strain my relationship even with him even more because I've been one of the few people to enforce boundaries.
How long should we wait until he wants to come?
Well, we shouldn't have had to wait this long at all. There should have been more accountability and more involvement from the state agencies and the actors involved with his well-being. I can't answer that. I participated in the last therapy session with his therapist. I'm open to doing that going forward. I want to help Trenton. I just don't think, I think it's going to be worse for my relationship with Trenton if I force him there. And then he's going to see that as me being the person taking him out of the place he wants to stay. He's already seen that and pushed back.
I appreciate that, sir. What you're telling me is you don't know how to get him to want to come back to your house.
I do know it, and I've recommendations for that. When he's had these serious meltdowns where it's taken hours, where we've been sitting there waiting with him and trying to work with him and get him to come around. And I think there's been times where he's called DHS's bluff. He's called everybody's bluff, saying that nobody can do anything to him. And that's where I've recommended at those times. He needs, if he's not wanting to come over or he's not wanting to cooperate, take him to a residential home on the weekend and let him see what his options are. I think he will come around once he sees that he's going to be forced somewhere else. If he doesn't come to my house, he will agree. I think he will come around to where he was before. But that recommendation has just been ignored. Because
so let me stop you.
A little extreme,
let me stop you. So what you're saying is the option of staying where he wants to stay in the home that he's in needs to be taken away. Otherwise, he's never going to want to leave that place.
Yes, Your Honor. I think he's been enabled by being allowed to stay there because in his mind, nobody can make him do anything. And so far, nobody's made him do anything.
All right. I appreciate your perspective. Ms. McCluskey, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'll keep it fairly brief. First of all, I've spent more time on this specific file than any other GAL file in probably my 4 years now. The bulk of my communication is with current placement. So the indication that I have somehow not shown up for this child, it really rubs me the wrong way. Most of my communication obviously is with the agency and current placement of Trenton. I have spoken to Mr. Prater. A lot of my focus was on the girls, obviously. I advocated for what I saw, at least in my experience, was an unprecedented move. We have worked tirelessly on this file for a very long time. So as for Trenton had no behaviors. So for the pendency of this case, Trenton was doing very well. Since he has started the behaviors, we've all had laser focus on Trenton and trying to come up with a solution for Trenton. As it appears here today, Mr. Prater does a lot of finger pointing. So when I had the lengthy conversation with him, the finger pointing was all at the agency's failure and the current placement's failure to do things. So at this point, when these behaviors first started, we did get Trenton into a counselor. I have worked personally with a counselor. I blanked on his last name. His name is Eric. We've had communication. The trauma assessment, I was under the impression I don't set the trauma assessments up. I have nothing to do with that. I followed up with that. It was my understanding it was set to be, it was to be rescheduled because Trenton would not participate in the first one, and then COVID hit. So that was being addressed by the agency. Besides that, there's nothing else we can do besides make this move happen or choose another adoptive home. So I'm not sure, and Mr. Prater keeps saying there's a failure on the GAL's part, the agency's part, and the current placement's part, but can't give any details as to what we are supposed to do. I mean, if at this point we have to pick another home or we have to physically move Trenton, we've done what we can.
My understanding, hold on. My understanding is that Trenton took this negative turn in behavior around the time that parental rights were terminated. Am I remembering that correctly?
No, Your Honor.
That is correct. Well,
it was months after. He had no behaviors. He was going to see his uncle compliantly doing the visits during the summertime. It was at the start of the 2019-2020 school year, which is over 6 months after parental termination.
Right. Actually, it was at the time that Trenton found out that the appeal had been denied. When he found out that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I remembered hearing a connection. So at that point, his hopes of being able to return home, which I believe has always been his desire from the time he was removed. Once those hopes were dashed is when he essentially has set out to sabotage whatever plan is in place, refusing to participate in the trauma assessment, throwing up roadblocks at being moved beyond his current placement. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is, Your Honor.
Do we have any plan going forward? What are
Your
the
Honor,
recommendations?
If I could also, I've spoken to Trenton's counselor, and he has requested that Mr. Prater participate in the counseling, and Mr. Prater has declined to do so. That's coming from the counselor. That would be an appropriate
I'll
first
give you a
step.
chance. Don't interrupt. Okay.
So,
Your Honor, I think it's
but at
clear
this
that-
point,
Hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Prater.
I think it's clear that the GAL is showing how little she has been involved. I have participated in the counseling. I've been emailing the therapist. I asked him for a summary of what he had discussed, what his expectations were going forward. Again, it comes back to a lack of understanding of what the actual situation is.
Have you sat in on a counseling session?
Yes.
How recently?
that's not the information I was given.
How recently, Mr. Prater?
It was last Friday.
So how did that go?
So after
from
I
your
spoke to
perspective?
Mr. Prater.
It went well. Trenton was initially a little confused why I was there, but he came around once I started talking to him, and then he agreed to come over and spend the weekend here after that. So it's I think he'll continue to come around. It will just take a little bit of understanding on his part of what the alternatives are. And I think once he realizes he can't stay at Kimberly's, and he's shown that he'll have to go somewhere else, he'll decide to come to my house. But so far, he's been shown that he doesn't have to do anything but resist, and he can stay at Kimberly's. And
Do you think it makes sense to give the counseling a chance with you participating to see if we can get him over this hump?
I'm open to that, but I think without any actual, I think beyond that, I'm not sure what will happen if he would still be open to.
You believe that progress was made once you participated in a counseling session. Do I have that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Shouldn't we give that a chance before we pull some kind of nuclear option on him and send him into another tailspin?
I'm open to that. However, I think it shouldn't be completely taken off the table. That because if he doesn't,
I agree with you, sir, that if the counseling doesn't remove whatever obstacle in Trenton's mind is keeping him from moving to your home and allowing the adoption to move forward, that we need to take a stronger step. But if we made progress after just one counseling session, doesn't it make sense to give that a chance? Now, I'm willing to schedule this matter for another review hearing in a month and see where we are then. I don't want this to drag on and on and on. It's dragged on too long. This is actually the first ray of hope I've had in recent review hearings that we're getting past this point. So if the counseling first step seems to have broken the ice some, let's give that a chance. And let's not take any other options off the table, but let's hold off on those other options and see if the counseling will do the trick. That's what a trained counselor is going to do. I would really like to give that the chance before we start strong arming. I mean, strong arming works with some kids and it doesn't work with others. With some, all it does is increase the resistance. When you're battling wills with a strong-willed child, a strong will against a strong will doesn't always work. I'd like to give the counseling a chance. I'd like it to be Trenton's idea to say, you know what, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to make this move. I think it has a far greater chance of success than if he feels like he's being forced into it.
I agree, Your Honor. And from what I know of Trenton, I think he will come around because he was at that point in time when he lived with me before. He was open. I mean, he has a room here. He helped set up that room. He's talked about staying here and living here, and made comments of that. It's just there hasn't been a lot of accountability, and even at school where he's had, was on the verge of being expelled, there was little help outside of myself for Kimberly. And Kimberly's been involved with this, far beyond anybody else. But I've gone to the school, and Trenton's kind of been able to just call everybody's bluff. The cops were called there when he was being disrupted one time, but they declined to do anything. So he takes that and it emboldens him to think that nobody actually can do anything to him. So I think that's he has a lot of behaviors that have beyond the trauma of losing his parents that have developed while he's been in foster care, where he sees that there's little accountability or little action that will be taken against him. And I went to the school and I physically helped. He's running around the school, running in the woods. I physically picked him up and took him back into the school and sat with him and made him sit until he calmed down. But my fear is if I'm the only one that's the enforcer and then he's forced to move to my house, it's just gonna ruin our relationship. If he sees that he can get away with everything else outside of my house, but then he's forced to my house, it's going to set us. It's going to impact our relationship. I think there's another way to do it.
So I see the counseling as the other way. Let's give it a chance. Let me have everyone back in a month and let's see where we are. Did he actually come for the weekend, or is that being planned?
He already spent the weekend here, which him coming here hasn't really been an issue. I mean, if he gets bored at the Colligans, he'll want to come over. There's just been times where little things where we've gone to pick him up where he's refused to come after saying that he would come over. There were a couple times in a row where we've gone to pick him up and he had changed his mind. But there's, again, it's what are my options? Do I force him in the car? That's not going to help the situation or help my relationship with. Other times though, he'll come with me and he's fine.
Let's give the counseling another month and see where we are. Shannon, give us a hearing date in a month.
Okay, hang on. Let me pull our schedule up real quick.
While she's doing that, Ms. Freeberg, Ms. Ernst, do you have anything else to add?
Just for the record, Your Honor, I have emailed James Henry at the CTEC Center 3 times and called the CTEC Assessment Center to try to reschedule that and get that. We're trying to actually do the assessment in Jackson so that we don't have to transport Trenton there and run into that barrier again. So efforts are being made to get that trauma assessment completed. We are all on board with Mr. Prater and this fact that that is a very necessary service that Trenton needs going forward. And that's it on my end. I don't know about Ms. Freeberg.
Well, I do think it's good progress too that he did spend the weekend. I saw Trenton on the 31st, and he had indicated at that time that he did miss his uncle. He did want to spend time with him, and that he didn't want to be forced to have to spend the night. But just the fact that he wanted to spend that time with him and express that he missed him, I believe is progress on his end. I did let him know that we were having court coming up and that we were all going to be discussing his placement and his adoption, and that, you know, we needed to make a decision soon, moving forward, what would happen as far as his adoption goes. So, his behaviors appear to be improving in the home, and he did express wanting to see family members.
All right, Shannon, you have that date?
I do. September 8th at 9:45.
September 8th, 9:45. Mr. Prater, I do appreciate what you've shared here today. I especially appreciate your willingness to engage directly in the counseling. Let's give that a chance. Let's see where we are in a month.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you all. Hayden Joyner. Mr. Williams, I think, is LGL on this one. And let's see, we've got Danielle Lagore.
Good morning.
And she's here. Okay, good. And an adoption worker. We don't have one yet. Is that correct?
There was one assigned just a couple days ago, Maria Kluckner, but I don't think that she is able to participate this morning.
Let me just double check and make sure she's not. She is here.
Oh, great.
I'll let her in. She could be here for another case, but no harm in inviting her into the room.
Sure.
So Danielle Lagore and Maria Kleckner. Okay, Mr. Williams, how is Hayden?
Your Honor, he's doing very well. Since our last hearing, not looking for, placement, looking for the adoption. He started school. they go 2 days on, then the other half of the children go the other 2 days a week. And then on Wednesday, they sanitize the school. And then they work electronically the other days. So grammar reports that that's going very well. Apparently the adoption worker is supposed to come out tomorrow, is my understanding. So looking forward to that. And he's just doing really well. No issues.
Ms. McGlure or Ms. Kleckner, do either of you have anything to add?
My only update was that an adoption worker was assigned.
And Ms. Kleckner, I'm assuming you don't have much of an update since you just got assigned?
Correct. I'm going with Danny to meet the family tomorrow, so we'll get rolling with his child assessment and the family assessment.
All right, well, we obviously are anticipating an appeal here. The attorney who we first chose to do the appeal let us know that she's not going to be able to do it, so Shannon had to find someone else and redo all the paperwork, so I'm sure that's going to slow the process down by a couple of weeks at least, and I guess we sit tight and wait to see what happens. I believe your recommendations are appropriate. I will implement them. We will set our next review hearing for November 3 at 9:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
That appeal to the new attorney will get out today, though. Just that one.
Yes. Next up is Caitlin Blair. Mr. Kelly is LGAO. And Jackie Johnson, looks like she's still here. And let's see. No adoption worker assigned yet. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Are you aware of whether an adoption worker's been assigned?
One has not been assigned yet. An agency has,
Okay,
but not
thank
a
you.
worker.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, how's
Caitlin and her foster parents are in the waiting room.
Oh, okay, hold on. What are the foster parents' names?
DeYoung.
Oh, okay,
D-E-J-O-N.
I see that. They're all at the same location?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just invited them in. And as soon as we have an audio connection, we'll move forward with our hearing. There's Caitlin. Okay, looks like we have a connection. Oh, no. Yes.
There, got it. Are we not?
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. We can hear you now. Hello, Caitlin.
Hi.
We're just doing our high school.
DeJong?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, can you give me a quick update on how Caitlin's doing?
She's doing well. It sounds like the therapy is assisting. She's opening up more there. As they kind of reference, they're exploring the options for school for the fall, whether to go in person or go online or do some combination, which I believe all schools are supposed to be offering. She contacts with her brothers and sisters is looking forward to the adoption being completed. I have no concerns with placement or the court report. I'm in agreement with the ultimate goal of adoption.
Yay.
Caitlin, is there anything you'd like to say?
No,
You know, you should tell them something.
I have nothing to say.
That's okay.
You want to go forward?
You go.
No.
Okay.
Well,
All right, here we go. So
Okay, Ms. Johnson?
Things are going
Anything to
very
add to your
well.
report?
I wish that we had been able to get them hooked up with the agency sooner, but that is, we have contacted them.
is that Guiding Harbor?
Yes.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
got something in the mail this morning from them.
Yep. I'm sorry. I had worked as a volunteer with Guiding Harbor before we had Kate. And so it seems awkward now, but at the time it seemed like a good idea to go through the user services, but they're easy enough to work with.
And they've indicated they'll take the referral. It's just usually they take them from other counties. So figuring out how to refer from our county was a little bit of a hiccup.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear things are off to a good start. We'll set this matter for a review hearing November 10th at 9:45.
November 10th at 9:45.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Take care, Caitlin.
Bye. I don't know.
I
I
don't know.
don't know how to leave.
I don't know.
Okay, we're just gonna fix it.
Yeah. Leave meeting there.
Okay, next up is Noah Rogers. Ms. McCluskey is LGAL. And let's see, we've got Ashley Beach. I'll let her in. And okay, I guess that's it. Is there anyone else expected to attend this hearing?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Ms. Beach?
Is this for Noah Rogers?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Ms. McCluskey, how's Noah doing?
He's doing great. Obviously, he's been with this placement all along since removal and always doing well there. I spoke to placement. He's growing, hitting all of his milestones. There are no concerns. The adoption process seems to be progressing appropriately. So I've reviewed the court report. I have no objection to the recommendations or the goal of adoption. Thank you.
And Ms. Beach, do you have anything to add to your report?
No, everything in the report is accurate and things are progressing nicely so far.
Great, that's good to hear. We'll set our next review hearing for November 3 at 9:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, next up is an inquiry hearing. I don't know why they keep putting these things on my docket, but here we are. Ms. McCluskey is LGAL. And let's see.
This Bill Rosema is the worker, Your Honor.
Yeah, let me get him in. And let's see.
mother is Jessica Jones. The father's incarcerated and the other county was not cooperative according to Mr. Rosema's email.
Okay. And there's Ms. Jones.
Jones is the worker, Your Honor? Is that,
No, no, Jones is the mother.
oh, okay. Who's the worker then? I didn't get that one.
Rosema.
Oh, Bill, okay, oh, okay, yes.
The shaggy Mr. Rosema.
He is quite shaggy.
Apparently, they didn't have any razors available during the shutdown.
No, Your Honor. That wasn't provided by the agency.
All right, and Ms. Jones is not a respondent, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and appoint an attorney for Mr. Johnson. As indicated, the jail hasn't cooperated to make him available, although frankly, I don't do inquiries on the record anyway. It's not required. I'm allowed to determine probable cause based upon anything I find sufficient, and I find the verified petition to be sufficient. So I think what we need to do at this point is simply schedule the matter for a pretrial and a trial. Pretrial will be September 8th at 8:30. Trial September 23 at 8:30. We'll need to make arrangements for service of the summons. Any expectation as to how long Mr. Johnson is going to be incarcerated?
Your Honor, I talked to the jail this morning just to see if there's any updates, and he is, well, all 4 charges are still pending, and the jail is actually waiting for a bed for inpatient treatment for him. So I don't know when that's going to be. They don't know when that's going to be, but I mean, I'm going to continue to still check in with the jail to see what's going on with that.
And he is charged with a mandatory 2-year prison sentence, or crime that would warrant that. What I was going to request of the court is that the court allow the mother to file for a change in custody or for full custody. I don't know what the custody arrangement is right now. This was a mandatory petition because the father's charged with a felony against the child. And my guess is he's not going to be available to the parent for quite some time.
So Ms. Jones, I see we finally made an audio connection.
Yes, we did.
Is there a current custody order in place
Yes,
between you and Mr. Johnson?
Yes, we have had 50-50 split legal and physical custody of the kids since we got divorced in 2010.
All right. Given the nature of the charges, where is your divorce pending? Which county?
Jackson County. It was in front of Judge Beebe.
All right. Well, what often would happen under these circumstances is, given that Mr. Johnson is not going to be available to participate in services for what appears to be at least a couple of years, I would authorize the entry of a temporary custody order, providing that you would receive sole legal, sole physical custody, and that parenting time would be reserved. And then
Okay.
once Mr. Johnson resolves his incarceration and legal issues, he would have to petition the court in order to get that changed.
Yeah,
Does that
I
sound
understand.
does that sound like an appropriate course of action for you?
Yes, it does.
Did you have an attorney that had represented you during the course of the divorce?
No, I did not. Mr. Johnson
so
had
neither-
Bailey, Smith, and Bailey.
But you did not hire an attorney?
No, I did not.
Do you have the ability financially to engage an attorney?
No, not currently.
I'm going to schedule this matter. I've already indicated the dates for a pretrial and trial. Shannon, who's going to be Dad's attorney?
I was just gonna say, okay, you didn't want me to appoint one. It's gonna be Ivan.
Mr. Ivan Brown, I'm going to appoint to represent him. Normally, I would wait for a respondent parent to ask for an attorney, but in this case, we weren't able to secure his participation in the hearing today because the jail where he's incarcerated is not willing to make him available.
Right.
So I will
He
go
is-
ahead and appoint him.
As far to my knowledge right now, he is looking at multiple felonies in 2 different counties up north right now. So I don't foresee him being available for a very long time.
All right, so I've set the matter for a pretrial September 8th at 8:30, a trial September 23 at 8:30. I will speak with Judge Jordan to get a temporary order entered.
Okay.
He'll then have the ability to file an objection to that. My guess is he probably won't.
Right.
Mr. Brown would not be representing him in any capacity other than as his attorney in this neglect and abuse proceeding.
Okay.
So go ahead and mark those dates on your calendar. Shannon, remind me to get a temporary custody order in.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So the jail would be able to accommodate, like, for him to be available by Zoom. They just can't do it on Tuesdays because it's they have sentencing on Tuesdays or something. So I think that, you know, for if he's not inpatient on September 8th, then maybe we can get him on. Like, I'll reach out to the jail, but Tuesdays are the issue. If it's another day.
What I think is going to happen is we're going to get that temporary order entered. As soon as the temporary order is entered, I'm going to dismiss this petition.
Okay.
So I think that's probably the best course at this point.
You're muted, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
You're muted. Ivan, you're muted. I did just send you the petition, though.
Judge, at least, so I can speak with my client once before this goes through. We do have trials on Wednesday, September 9th, I believe. Would it be possible to do this pretrial before we start our trials briefly on that day, since the jail is an issue with getting his appearance here?
Certainly, we could set the pretrial for a Wednesday morning. Let's do that. So we'll set it for September 9th at 8:30. But I suspect there'll be a custody order entered before then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to need to take a short break. I'm going to stop the live stream, but we'll keep the meeting open.
Judge, I'm on this case in a different capacity on the Bush-Holtz-Scheider matter. If you could leave me in to listen, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on kicking you out.
Okay.